Hello everyone, welcome to Data Info. In today's video, we will see a small demo project, a mini project we can say, based on Flask. We will use SQLite as a database, and we will also see the use of CRUD operation. What is CRUD stands for? It's create, read, update, and delete. We will see this CRUD operation using a small demo of creating or implementing a to-do list. So what is to-do list? You can see on your screen a list is getting created as soon as you enter a task and click add to it. The list will get rendered just below this one by one. You can track those list status whether it's completed or not by clicking this update button, and you can delete it after completion of the task. Similarly, you can add the new task respectively. Alright, so let's get into it. I will show you the code, how you can implement it. Alright, you will get the updated code in description down below, so that code will be updated. Alright, so I'm not gonna start with the very basic, right? So not gonna write the whole code. I have written the code already. I will explain you all the block of code line by line, what it executes. Alright, because we have already seen the Jinja 2 templating and all the interpolation codes already in our earlier lectures, so I don't think by writing all this again won't be helpful. So first of all, what you need to do, you need to create this main.py file. I'm using the REPL this platform. You can use in your local as well, no problem. Alright, so just make sure that you are using a environment, Python environment. In that only you are creating or implementing this project, so that all the SQL libraries or SQLite3 that you want to use for database, you will install it already. Alright, so just go ahead and create this main.py. Inside that, just import all the necessary libraries. First of all, what we will do, import Flask from Flask, then render template and request. These are the most libraries that we saw earlier as well. What this render template will do, this is new for most of you. The render template will be implementing or rendering the HTML templates for you. Alright, like a page or anything. That's a HTML template. Request will request the URL or endpoint to you. Redirect will you take the user to particular or redirect it to the particular page or a particular section of the page. Alright, and URL underscore for is used for the same purpose, where the redirect and URL for is used together. We will see how you can use that. After writing this first line, just don't jump onto the second line. We will get into it a little bit later. After that, you create the object of Flask, right? And you write your first decorator, that is app.route, and you give the route the URL endpoint, that is slash. This is home endpoint slash. It will render on the slash, and you create the index function for it. Now this index function, you can use a home function or whatever name you want to give, so you can change according to your need. Inside this, I am rendering a template. This is home template. Now you have to create this home.html file, because this is the template that you want to render when you hit the endpoint slash on the browser. Alright, and the second parameter is, this is interpolation values that you will get to render test.test. This is test coming from here, so we will get into that, but just go ahead and create home.html. Where you will create that, you have to first create the templates folder. Okay, not templates with the S at the end. Templates, inside that create home.html. So this is like a convention in Flask. So Flask, go ahead and check for the templates folder, and whatever the HTML or base.html or home.html file inside that. So I have created the home.html file. I will show you this file home.html. Okay, this is a basic HTML file. I will explain you what I did over here in a bit. Go ahead and create a basic HTML file. You can just print any statement under p tag or h tag, and let's say you wrote hello world, and just see if you can see after running the code you can see the output on the screen. Okay, so after creating this first function, go ahead all the way down and create this if statement. If double underscore name is equal to main. Alright, and you will write a statement app.run. What this app.run function will do, it will run this server for you, a Flask server for you on the host 0.0.0. What is mean? It means that 0.0.0 it will broadcast, or it will accept all the requests from any IP addresses. From any IP addresses, it will accept the request on browser, right? And on port 81, you can choose any port you like according to your need. I have written 81 port. Okay, so by just doing this, you can execute it. Okay, using if you are running in your local, you can run the code or command flask space run and see if you can see the content inside whatever content you have wrote inside home.html. Alright, after that, in this index function only, now we have to create the whole to-do list, which will look like this. Alright, so we have to create the database for it, where we will store whatever the list we have to create. So what data we have to store, we have to first get this information. So as soon as you write something into the input box and hit add, so the post request will be created. Okay, there are two main requests that we will look at, get and post. Alright, so post request will be created, so we have to write a title. So we have to make a table inside database where the first column will be title, second column will be the ID of your list, and third column will be the status, whether it is completed or not completed. Alright, this is status. Alright, as soon as you click on this update button, the status will get changed. Okay, coming back to the code, go ahead and create a file called model.py. This is where we will execute our all queries. Alright, where we will interact with our databases. And don't write this, don't create this todo.db file, it will automatically get created. So this is todo is a name for our database that we will write. I will tell you, this file is automatically gets created, so you don't have to write this file or create this file. You have to create this model.py file. Go ahead and create the model.py file as I am showing over here. Import SQLite3. If you haven't installed it, just install it in your local. I am using the online platform, so it's already getting sorted. Import this SQLite3. After that, you have to create the database and connect the database. Alright, you have to connect to the database. You write this function connect to DB, connect to database. The first statement is SQLite3.connect, and you write the database name. I have wrote the database name todo. Remember, in this code I have wrote two todos, this todo and this todo. The todo with small t is a database name, and todo with capital T is a table name inside the database. Okay, so don't get confused over here, but you can change according to your need. If you want to change the database name to something else, you can give it, go ahead and do that, no problem. Similarly for the table name as well. So you connect to the database using this statement, and you create the cursor object So why do you need to create a cursor object? Without the cursor object also you can go with that, but the importance of cursor object is that using this cursor object you can execute some SQL queries. Okay, so it will help you to execute some queries. Some methods are there that you can call upon it, okay, using execute. After creating the cursor object using connection.cursor, cursor.execute is getting called, and inside that you are executing some queries. Okay, so you notice that the query is create table if not exist. If the table is not exist, then create a new table called TODO with the capital T. Okay, inside TODO database I have created a TODO table with a capital T. Okay, and inside that TODO we have to mention the columns, the number of columns that we will create. So I have to create 3 columns. You can see here, first column is title, second column is complete, name of the column is complete, and the third column is ID. Okay, 3 columns are there. We will see what is the first column. First column is title, whatever the title we have for our list, to-do list, for our task. Alright, this title, I want this title to be text, so I have written this rule. Okay, space rule text, and I want this title to be not null, means there should be some value. If you don't insert any value and you hit enter, it will not execute it or give you error. So that's why this is not null. It should not be null, it should not be empty, it should be always a value inside it. So title should be text and not null. What about this complete column? The complete column is a status column. You can write any name to the column, no problem. I have chosen the complete, and complete is a boolean. It returns a boolean value. So that's why the rule is a boolean, true, false. If the complete is true, means the task is completed. If the complete is false, means task is not completed. Alright, ID. I want the ID to be integer, so I have written the rule as integer, and I want the ID to be primary key. Now what is the primary key? If you know SQL a little bit, you would know that the primary key is the key which is unique for each record in the table. The table is to do. Inside to do we will create a lot of lists. First list, second list, third list, fourth list. So every list has an ID to it. There is first ID, second ID, and every ID is unique. So that's why it is primary key. Choose your primary key carefully. It should be unique. Now the third rule I have added over here for ID is auto increment. I have written it so that the ID will get automatically increment once you create the first list, second list, or third list, and so on. So it will get auto increment. Now after executing this query, you have to commit the connection and close the connection. Now this is very important. For that you wrote the statement connection.commit. You remember this commit like in our Git version control system as well. Whenever you push some code to the Git, you commit, you add it, you commit it, you write any message to the commit, and then you push it, or you close the connection. So similarly it is over here as well. You commit the connection and you close it, connection.close. Now this is a print statement. It's just to assurance for us that the table has created. If you want, you can write it. If you want, you can remove it as well, no problem. So I'm just printing it to the console that like over here you can see table has created. So this is how a connection to the database happens. Okay, this is your first what we can say a function from the database. Okay, the database has been created. What next? You want to insert some values to the database, right? So Okay, so database is created. Now don't just insert it right now, right away. We will see first how to create the HTML template. So go to the you must have created home.html. Go to the home.html. You can see over here the important code is from this body. Inside the body tag you have this a small demo template that has the form inside it, the input form, which accepts the input or the title, and it has a button to it. Okay, simple HTML, not much complicated. And after that there is some uh, Jinja to templating code over here. If you can see, we have seen this earlier as well. The for loop we have seen, the if statement we have seen, right? So we are just rendering whatever list we are creating, okay, in this code over here. So how this is happening, I will tell you in a bit. Okay, so after creating this home.html, you go to the main.py and you execute this function. Whenever you execute this function, this connect to db will be called, and you go to this model.py and this function will be executed. After that, the next function which is executing is view data. So we have to create this view data function as well. You go to the model.py, you create that function over here only, like this. So what is this view.data? So view data is doing is that whatever changes you are making to the web page by clicking or putting or post request or get request, you want to fetch all the records and show it on the web page. Alright, the updated records from the database. So you are again connecting to the database using sqlite3.connect, then creating the cursor object. Again, this is necessary whether you are inserting to the database or connecting to the database or viewing data from the database. You always write these connection statements. After that, this is executing the query, and this is very famous query that select star from to do. Star means everything. You are selecting every record from the table to do. From to do. To do is table name, and this to do is database name. Inside the database, this to do is there. Alright. Then using cursor object, you are fetching all the rows. You are using the building function fetch all. You are fetching all the rows and returning all the rows. So all the rows will be returned. Whatever is updated rows are there or added rows are there in the database. So that's where this view data function is doing, and the result will be get stored in this object test object, this interpolation variable reference you can say, and this interpolation value will be coming from this test to this test, and from this test is given to this attribute, and from here it is getting returned or rendered, right? So where it is rendering to slash. Whenever you hit the slash, you will get whatever there in the database. Alright, so what next? This is just connecting to the database and viewing data from the database. At first there will be nothing, so you won't see anything. Alright, so we have to add now something to the database. Now you go ahead and write this function. First create this decorator with the slash add endpoint. So whenever you hit this slash add endpoint, and the second parameter is methods, where you are putting the get and post methods, right? So because I'm writing this both get and post methods, so what is the get and post methods? Post is something that you want to, let's say there is a database or the server and your web page. From your web page, if you want to post something to the server or database, you will use post method. If from the database or from the server you want to fetch some data to your web page, you will use get method. As simple as that. There are some other HTML methods are there, and status codes are there that you can go ahead and check it out on your own time. But here get and post method that we gonna use mostly. So inside add function, if the request.method is equal to post, means if you want to post something from here, if you write some tasks, right, and you hit add, it will post something from this web page to the server or to the database, right? So this is what it is saying. If request.method is equal to post, the request.form.get, you have to get this. Get is a function over here, alright? Get this title. From where it is, it will get this title from this input box. Get this title from input box and store it into the title object. Okay, after storing it to title object, what you have to do, just connect to the database, run this function, connect to DB, and then run the function insert DB and put this title into the insert DB function. Alright, so we have to create this insert DB as well. After that, creating insert DB, you just render it using render template and render function and URL for function, and show the index template at the end, because everything is happening on the same web page. We have only same web page, not a multiple web page. Alright, so that's why we are rendering the indexed function again, so that we will render this home.html template again. Alright, this is for the post request. Similarly for the get request as well. If request.method is get, then return the HTML template that index. Inside index, home.html is there. Okay, so let's just create this insert db function. Okay, go to the model.py, create this insert db function. If you can see over here, this is insert db function, which is accepting the title. Where this title is coming from main.py, we are giving this title over here. From here we are collecting this title, putting over here. From here it is accepting over here as an argument. Alright, insert db. Again, create a connection with database. To do, create the cursor object, execute the query for inserting. Now, inserting query, you can find it online. Any query you will find it online. The queries can be changed a little bit because there are many ways to write some queries. So I prefer this method. So I prefer this way. So you can write or accept this way as well. Insert into TODO. TODO is the name of our table. I want to insert in that TODO. There are two columns, that is title column and complete column as well, that as we saw, title and complete. Inside that column I want to insert the values. What values? These values, question mark. So this question mark will be reside into title, and this second question mark will be reside into complete status, comma, give the values over here. This is the values. Title will go over this first question mark. From first question mark it will connect to this title. False, this false value will go to the second question mark. The second question mark will be connected to this complete status. False represent the status is false, means the task is not completed. True represents task is completed. So you can use the 0 or 1 as well instead of false or true, but I prefer false or true over here. Okay, then after this executing the statement, you can just go ahead and commit the connection as I told you, and then close the connection. Similarly, do it for the update as well. Go ahead and create the function for update and execute this query to update it. Update query is simple. Update TODO table set complete is equal to 2 where, using the where clause. This is called clause where the TODO ID is this ID. Now pay attention over here. This ID is a tuple. That's why I wrote ID comma, because Whenever you pass a single value to the tuple, you pass the comma to it. Alright, this is the query to update the status in the database. A delete query. Similarly, write this function for delete query, accept the parameter. Now you can see we are accepting the parameters as ID. Based on the ID, we are making changes into the database. Now executing the delete query, delete from to do, where again using the where clause, where to do ID is equal to ID. We are deleting the particular ID. It's not like we are deleting any random ID. No, the whatever the ID is given to us from main.py. See, whenever we add /add, endpoint will get executed. Whenever we update over here, /update will get executed. For delete will get executed. Now over here you will see some changes like update /id, delete /id. Now this is important because we have to update or delete a particular ID list only. So how will you show it? Using this statement, int :id. This is a convention. You write it as it is. Alright, and you know the other stuff. You call the database, you update the database and return it and render it. Alright, so this is how the three functions is there. Like first one is connect to database, then insert into the database, then view whatever there is in database. This is the common one, and then update data and delete data. Alright, now let's go to the HTML home.html and see what is the interpolation Jinja 2 template we have wrote. You know this is the for loop we want because every list will be rendered and fetched using for loop. For row in test. Okay, this is test. Where this test is coming from main.py. You see this test interpolation value we are sending from here to here. This test, and whatever rows inside that test, we will render it one by one. You can see here, whenever we render a list, we have ID and the title of the to do with the separator as a pipe symbol, a little separator, ID and title. Similarly, you can see here, I'm rendering ID and then title after the pipe symbol. You can see there we are accessing the rows of second and rows of 0th element. Now, how you can imagine this? What is at 0th element and what is at second element? You go ahead in the model.py where you created the connection.db. You see on the 0th element you have created the title. On first element you have created the status, and at second element you have created the ID. Right? So this is the sequence you have to remember, and accordingly you have to access it. On 0th element you have title, on second element you have ID, so it will render accordingly. So whenever you create the for loop, you end the for loop with this statement end for. Just remember that. Inside that I have written this if statement. If the status is equal to false, row of 1 represents status, it is complete or not complete. If row of 1 is equal to false, I will return this or render this span element, span tag, which says that it is not completed. Now instead of span you can use anything like h or p tag or div tag or anything according to your convenience. I am using this span tag. Else, if it is false, else you can use this complete span, render complete span, and end this if condition using end if. This is Jinja 2 templating. You have to keep that in mind. After that, you can see at the bottom there are two buttons over here, update and delete button. So each button is enclosed under anchor tag. So, and there is a href attribute. So this href attribute helps us to get to the function that we want to execute. So as soon as you hit the update button, it will go ahead and match this endpoint update slash row 2, because at row 2 there is id, update slash id. From here it will go to the main.py and match for update dot id. So it will go ahead and match this update slash id and execute this whole function, update function, for you. Right. Similarly, it will do it for the delete button as well. It is enclosed under anchor tag again with href attribute delete slash id. id, you can see we have written under double curly braces. So this is important because this is id. So it is written under double curly braces. This is coming from this rows. Okay. So that's why we have written under double curly braces. As soon as it matches this on main.py, so it will run this decorator function delete and execute all the functions inside it. Alright, so this is how you can just render all the templates. If you can just run what comes after breakfast, it comes lunch, print lunch, and add. As soon as you add, the post request will be created, and this add list will go and reside into the database and table of the database, that is to-do. And on top of that to-do, we will run the view data function, which will show all the list from the database, and it will render over here at bottom. Just click add. You will see the second id with the title name lunch is created. Now the status is not completed. As soon as you complete your lunch, you can update the status by clicking on the update button. Click on update button, just change to completed. After completed, you can just delete it as well. The delete query will be executed after clicking the delete. See, this is how simple it is. It is not much complex project. This is just mini project, a demo project to show you implementation of Flask, a Jinja 2 templating with SQLite3 database. So I hope you must have liked it, how you can implement CRUD operation, that's create, read, update and delete. Now there is a catch for you. You will find that you will find a lot of flaws in this code because just demo purpose. So go ahead and check the flaws in the IDs, because when you add multiple IDs and delete any random ID in between, the sequence might get messy. Okay, it might get messed up. So to avoid that sequence, what you can do, I won't tell you. In fact, I will give you the code in description down below, the updated code. But before checking out that updated code, I want you to just go ahead and search that how you can modify the code in order to avoid that flaw. Apart from that, our application is running fine. So this is how you can do or implement a to-do list in Flask. I hope you must have liked it. So please comment down below and hit the subscribe button. Thanks.
Check out this one. Swig it, swig it.